appropriate and dig deeper. And sometimes when you do that, you do discover things which, at first blush, you had one opinion, and by the time you've gone through that process, you might end up with a very different opinion. The only other thing I would add, Nick, of course, is that of any Secretary of State, you're often at the top of a very large organisation, which might be, as in the case of my department, interfacing with millions, and I mean tens of millions of people almost on a daily basis. And you cannot, of course, be across absolutely everything to the nth degree. But what you can is really be alert to what people are saying around you, what those outside of your department are saying, and not fall into that trap of the kind of ivory tower in which an opinion or a cultural opinion is the most really challenging. You have to know when to be near. And that is what good ministers do.
Mel Stride, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Thank you for joining.
At past 8 is the time. A key moment in the story of what is happening now in Ukraine goes back 30 years to the days when the Soviet Union had just come to an end, and Ukraine and the other former Soviet socialist republics were emerging from their old relationships with Russia. The writer Viv Groskop's new book is all about that time, because she got to know Ukraine well between 1992 and 94, when she went there frequently while studying writing. It is called One Ukrainian Summer, and she is here, while the Ukrainian writer Andrei Kirkov, author of Death in the Penguin, is also with us on the line. That particular novel is set in Kiev in the mid to late 1990s, and Andrei's latest book, The Silver Bone, was published in March. Welcome to you both.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning.
First of all, take us back then to what you remember of that period 30 years ago in Ukraine.
Well, I was from the generation that came of age at the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, and I was first in the former Soviet Union from 1992, and spent time in Russia and in Ukraine. And I happened to fall into a group of friends who were Ukrainian, and so as someone learning Russian, I was suddenly noticing that they used words differently, they spoke differently, and although I was studying Russian at university, when I was at Cambridge University, one of the best places in the world to learn a language, it had never really been explained to me that Ukrainian is a completely different language, that Ukraine has its own history, that it has its own culture, and I was really groping at this knowledge which was quite invisible to us then, and I think if you grew up with that idea through the 70s, 80s and the early 90s from a Western perspective, that the Soviet Union is this huge behemoth that is never going to disappear. We were very much a common bond that existed. Well, exactly, and I think we were almost under the spell of that Russified Soviet idea that Moscow was the centre of everything and Russian was the common language. And I couldn't quite understand at the time these discrepancies between language and the different words that were being used. And it's only now, 30 years later, that I see, oh right, yes, you see, it's slightly mortified that whole narrative.
Andrei, obviously, Viv, as she acknowledges, has seen this as an outsider, but was this period in the 90s also a key moment where there was a conscious sense for Ukrainians of a separate identity emerging?
Yes, but we should understand that actually, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the majority of people felt still Soviet. And it was time of moral, economical, and political crisis. The country disappeared. The social structure disappeared. People lost their savings. They lost feeling of security. And there was a small minority which was campaigning for the Ukrainian language, Ukrainian identity. The numbers were growing, but they were not really, the first post-Soviet years, they were not really influential in the situation. It took 7 years, 8 to 7 years before really the movement for separate identity became much more strong.
It's interesting you say that, because essentially there were more bread and butter issues that were at the forefront of people's minds then.
Yeah, bread and butter and survival, because after 1991, for 2 or 3 years, the criminal situation became incredibly serious, and I myself, I remember when I earned first $100, I sold bulletproof doors on our farm.
On the language side of things, tell me your experience, Andrei, because you've had a hard time lately, haven't you, for writing in Russian, or at least it's your fiction that you write in Russian.
I write in Russian, and I look for say that I had very difficult times in this type of I would say my book had this 100 plus had difficult times. But I think the opinion and difficult times. I last seen in Moscow in the late 90s, so rather than
But I think anyone who's not in this squad today, they could never have won So two managed to go for as a part of that story. But one has had a great season and the other hasn't. There's particular competition in the forward areas, and Phil Foden, you're talking about there, him, he's absolutely nailed on to be in the team. Marcus Rashford, I think, of Manchester United could be vulnerable, and a big part of the reason for that is the form of Cole Palmer, who's had a stunning season, scoring 29 goals for Chelsea and Manchester City, and he's pressing for a place in the team, and he's pushed others down the pecking order. So there are others with strong cases like Jared Bourne, Anthony Gordon, Eberici Eze. So that's why Rashford could be vulnerable. Jack Grealish, James Maddison as well. Now, I'm not sure James Sancho, who's recaptured his form on loan at Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final next week. I'm not sure he'll be vulnerable.
Southgate has one of the best but maybe Southgate also considering the inexperienced but certainly impressive Manchester United youngster Koulibaly.
Yeah,
generally midfield is an area where England are not so well blessed. So the 19-year-old Kobbie Mainoo really caught the eye when he won his first caps in March, which very suited to international football. So I would expect him to be in. And at the other end of the age scale, I think we can expect to see Jordan Henderson, who is one of Gareth Southgate's dependables in this squad, despite the rather odd year that he's had, going from Liverpool captain to Saudi Arabia to Ajax. It's a real Southgate lieutenant.
And problems in defence, certainly at left back.
Yeah, defence, this is where the real problems are for Gareth Southgate, whether it's injuries, and yes, the first choice left back, Luke Shaw, is in a real race to be fit, but also players not playing enough, like John Stones, who's not played in over half of Manchester City's matches this season, or the case of Arsenal's Ben White, who made himself unavailable for international selection in March. So this is a large part of the reason why the squad will be as big as it is today, to cover for all those defensive eventualities. And we might see Eric Dyer back in the squad, for instance, who's very well known at Bayern Munich this season.
Final question for you, John. Do you sense that whatever the remaining issues, that Southgate has already a starting level in mind for the first championship match in Serbia?
Well, whenever I put this question to Gareth Southgate, he will always say, if the match is being played today, I know what my team will do. And I think he would not be far away from picking up Walker, Stones, Maguire, and Shaw, if everyone is fit. I think possibly Alexander-Arnold in midfield, with Rice, Bellingham, Saka, Kane, and Foden.
Sounds like the team today, but you're in the wrong job. That's very much so. That takes us to the picture. We're at the 260 with the gold red cloud.
It's a great word for the best.
The image of the battle He's a terrible moaner, complaining about his superiors, protecting his family. He's spending more time shopping than fighting. Nietzsche and Tiana's keep clear of the battlefield and survive long enough to enjoy a comfortable retirement. Find out in BLE. This morning at 9 on Radio 4 and Greece Sounds. The weather will be unsettled today, mostly scattered showers, some good heavy sun.
You're listening to Today on BT Radio 4 with Nick Robinson. Rather bright and cool this morning. Shows a summary.
The government will set out details of a compensation scheme for the victims of the infected blood cancer today. Contaminated blood treatments for 20,000 contracted HIV hepatitis mainly in the 1970s and 80s. Public inquiry has accused the government and the NHS of failing patients. The Work and Pension Secretary, Matt Stride, told this programme that the government will provide a full compensation package. Doctors in Israel have told the BBC that Palestinian detainees from Gaza are being shackled to hospital beds and forced to wear blindfolds and nappies. The Israeli army says restraints are only used for awareness and security issues. President Biden says he rejected an application by the International Criminal Court prosecutor for an arrest warrant issued to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Karim Khan wants to arrest him, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders for alleged war crimes. And a group of engineers and scientists is calling for greater investment in the UK's sewerage network to reduce the health risk from human fecal matter. Instead, measures such as improved water quality monitoring would help bring down the likelihood of infections from bacteria and viruses.
Charles, the time is 25 to 9. Of what it is like on the streets of Tabriz in northwestern Iran at the moment, at least it has been in the last few hours, as a funeral procession goes through the city for Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president who was killed in that helicopter. Sunday there will be more such processions in different cities. A large event in Tehran tomorrow before he is buried in his hometown of Mashhad on Thursday. Hassan Nabi, BBC Special Correspondent, is here in the studio. Is his body actually being taken from one place to another as part of this network?
Well, it's an informal funeral for the 8 people who died in this incident, including President Raisi and also his Prime Minister. The coffins are being carried in the street here in Paris. You see it on Iranian television, live television coverage.
I can't answer this. This is stupid.
It's interesting that so this doctor is speaking on the record.
That's right. He was one who was happy to speak on the record. Most of those who spoke to this report said they had to remain anonymous because there was some sensitivity around it. And we were
his report, he outlined his findings for the Scotland scandal of Westminster Central. Looking front. Those people can look behind. Those are the people who have written this report, all from your very different perspectives. The clause illustrated how different this report was. Just time for a quick reflection on whether it can change things beyond the compensation we'll see paid out today. We're talking about Caroline Wheeler, as the editor of the Sunday Times, all from Death in Blood, who's done so much to reveal what was going on, and the chair of a whole series of inquiries, including Morecambe Bay, Bill Kirkup. Morning to you. Do you think the way he did things differently, Mr. Kirkup, will actually lead to different outcomes?
I absolutely commend what he's doing differently. I was just reflecting on the other day in Canterbury that he's confirmed that this was their investigation, the return investigation in East Kent. And I welcome that. It's absolutely essential that we use this as a powerful agent for change. We've heard far too many times about the culture of cover-up, about reputation management, people hiding behind it so that they don't give people a full and honest account of what has happened, often over many years and often over decades. This has absolutely got to change. Bishop James Jones wrote a wonderful report called The Patronising Disposition of Unaccountable Power. He discusses this in there. It is beyond time that we implemented all of what he recommended in the report.
That quote was about Hillsborough. We've had Hillsborough, Grenfell, we're now going through the post office. There's something going on with the British state, Mr. Kirkup, isn't it?
It's not just the state. I think it's almost the default response of every organisation that when they find themselves under scrutiny, under challenge, they resort to hiding behind this reputation management. We will be damaged by this. We have to find a way to deflect, to deny and to cover up.
Which you experienced every day, Caroline Wheeler, as you were trying to reveal these stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing to see it covered in the way it is today, reading every programme and on the front page of every newspaper. It certainly hasn't felt like that over the last 20 years that I've been covering it, when I've had to persuade people to keep writing about these stories because, you know, so often it was considered that this scandal was never going to have its day, its moment, as it did yesterday. And, you know, even the Department of Health and some of the other government departments, when we tried to ask questions of them, sort of put it in the box marked done. And come back again and
Do you think that was the gamble taken by senior officials, by politicians? You might just get away with this. Why never have to pay the money over obviously the people to spend on?
I think that was absolutely part of the calculation, and indeed there are lots of evidence that if we were to imagine that Satan if they basically passed away before to be made. So there's very much an extent that they were waiting to die.
30 seconds, yeah, but just tell us about the one thing that you know so well about politics.
It's all about communication. These are people that have been talking about this for so long and have had their stories ignored. They just want to be listened to, and they want to know that they are going to have a future now, and that the reasons of this appalling tragedy are going to be heard in a way that they haven't been heard.
Well, they have been listened to, and those thought problems usually your journalists and your own representatives of their people who look to the work of the George Fairshare.
Biden says that he rejects an application by the International Criminal Court prosecutor for an arrest warrant to be issued to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Arim Khan wants to arrest him, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders for alleged war crimes. Large crowds have gathered in northwestern Iran, where the first funeral ceremony is being held for those who died in a helicopter crash with President Raisi. A period of national mourning is underway. A group of engineers and scientists is calling for greater investment in the UK sewage network. Measures such as better monitoring of water quality. And Gareth Southgate names his preliminary Euro squad for the European Championship at 2 o'clock this afternoon. A final 26-man squad is assembled.
This is Alicia Sullivan finds a new BBC documentary looking at forensic techniques in police cases assault. Cold case investigators solved three cases. One is that Karen was raped. What salvation is what if the government needs Karen? Didn't the hospital of
the lives of people who lived and died under the power of the Roman Empire. I'm Mary Beard. I'm telling the stories of 6 fascinating people from publican to Pompeian moneylender. In this episode of Being Roman, we'll be just squatting from the Roman legion, but one who prefers shopping to fighting. In the centre of Rome, there's a tall pillar carved with well over 100 scenes of Roman station. Trajan's column is over 2,000 years old. It shows massed ranks of legions, identically dressed, dividing their time between building bridges and spearing the barbarians. It's an image of the well-drilled, brutally efficient Roman soldier that we've clung on to ever since, in movies, popular history books, and video games. What we don't usually get, though, is any idea at all of what it felt like to be your average ordinary human. But you do get a really vivid glimpse of a small collection of letters found in an ancient house in Roman Egypt. Many of them written back home to his relations and friends by a guy who was serving first of all in the Roman, later on in the legions themselves. They're written on papyrus, and you can see here they're pretty tattered, but enough survives so that we really can get an idea of this man's priorities were, and what he wanted to tell his family about what his hopes and aspirations were. I have to say, they're perhaps not surprising, you might imagine. We learn from these letters about capital ferocity of military activity. We learn a lot about his moments, his shopping, and his illnesses.
This is a section there, some unreacted evidence and there about sorts. Two buttons up. Twice a month I have to write myself there. Or you send it out, or when you send it for the opposite way.
He's having arguments with his barracks mates and refers to someone and he says, pay no more attention to me than a sponge on a stick, which is of course the expression of toilet paper. So basically complaining about being disregarded by some of his comrades. Some of his things get stolen when he's got food poisoning, his bedding gets stolen while he's laid up in bed for 5 days. He also complains about his optio, which would have been his senior officer, dealing with palavra, which is a pickaxe. He doesn't seem to get along particularly well with his cohort.
The name of this local soldier is Claudius Terentianus, and at the British Museum, Carolina Angelini has been using his letters and all kinds of other evidence, from swords to silk, to throw the spotlight onto all of his Roman soldiers. A hugely popular exhibition.
What's quite remarkable is that from these letters, at the beginning of his career, all the way up until his retirement, we know he survives 25 years of service and he retires. A lot of the times where we've got soldiers' names in particular comes from tombstones. We know how they die, but we don't have any information. So to have his own words and his letters home is very unusual. So the letters themselves survive because they come from Egypt. The papyri tends to survive in Egypt because of very dry conditions. But another reason why we get quite a few of the letters is that they're found kept together. Probably the person who received them, his father, kept them all together. The survival of one meant the survival of quite a few. It's really a really unique record of an individual for this period in time. Get a lot of his personality from these letters, and not necessarily the most affable personality, but that's what makes him such a character, really.
I suspect he had an unerring ability to wind people up the wrong way. Terentianus was a Roman citizen, a status that you might think would mean he could walk into the legion. But the letters suggest that his preferences just weren't good enough. So his next best option was to join the Marines.
I enrolled in the fleet so that you
is drifting like a man on the run, lured on by some useless hope.
The Navy and the Marines are definitely inferior service to the Legions, and one mark of that is that Marines get paid a lot less than Legionaries. That's partly, I think, why Terentianus is so grumpy about it. Also, I suspect that life on a floating barracks was pretty grim, and the Marines had huge number of tasks to fulfill.
We've actually got two objects here that are two coins in the exhibition. We used to illustrate the different kinds of roles. One of my personal favourites actually is a coin with the Colosseum. And actually, if you look really closely at the coin, you can see the awning sticking out of the Colosseum, and that's essentially where the shade came from the Colosseum. And it was actually Marines who would draw these awnings to cast shade over the viewers in the Colosseum. So not the most glamorous job you can imagine for a soldier, probably not what you sign up to do when you think you're joining the elite Roman army, certainly not what Terentianus hoped to be doing. But then we've got another coin here that actually shows the grain supply coming in, and another very important role Marines had was protecting the grain supply within Rome.
Hard to make out, but I think you've got the Emperor standing around lighthouse welcoming the ships nothing was more important to the survival of the Roman people in the peninsula than getting this grain from Egypt to the peninsula.
Obviously a very important role, again, not the most glamorous, not necessarily the one that you want to write home about, but equally very important.
Terentianus certainly feels he's slumming his story, and he immediately starts plotting escape to the Legion. But in the meantime, he needs to get kitted out for service.
I beg and plead you, Father, because after God, I have no idea. To use Valerius to send me a battle sword, a spear, a pickaxe, a Gatling iron, a pair of the best lances, a beaverskin waterproof, a belted tunic, plus my trousers, since I wore out my old tunic before I enrolled. Oh, and my new trousers were put away. Oh, and if you're going to send anything, put the address on everything, and describe it exactly in a letter, in case there's any attempt to swap the stuff on me. Or if you do write a letter, the address is the ship by the name of Neptune.
What comes over most surprisingly from Terentianus' letters and his requests for his family to send him is clothing. We kind of tend to think of the Roman army as being equipped from central stores, and some of it, I'm sure, that is the case. But Terentianus is providing an awful lot to kit himself, and he goes through all the kind of things he needs, like socks and sandals, and I guess what he's talking about.
Everything started feeling freer. Like I just shared in my head, freed me from this idea that there were certain, like I had to do things a certain way. I think that it's important that there are queer and trans barber shops because you have to be centered. Acceptance isn't enough, just acknowledging someone isn't enough. It's, well, are they going to use your pronouns? Are they going to, like, make sure that you're happy with the cut? Not just, like, steamrolling, yeah, feeling safe.
Step in. Do they have a better shorten up there?
Yeah.
The room itself.
I think that going to a trans barber is important for me. We're co-creating the experience, like a haircut feels co-creating. And I think that I like the haircut better because you share with the experience of how the person in this world. I realized my transness in community with other trans folks. Yeah. Like, you hatch each other. There's a concept of, like, hatching each other in community when, like, grown now. I'm grown now, and I can advocate for myself. I can speak up for myself, and I can speak up for other people too. And I think that that is really important.
Animal friend, the rain, the sunlight. For tens of thousands of years, horses have been our companions for humans. They are, as Casey's put it in his poem, the horses, as patient as the horizon. Made by audio producer Tej Adelaide, she tells us equine therapy is a holistic approach to mental health that involves working with horses, who, as very honest animals, can hold up a mirror to our experiences. As larger mammals, they co-regulate nervous systems and offer lessons about spatial awareness, boundaries, and presence. This is a piece about locating stillness in a busy body mind and journeying with horses through rituals to help build new neural pathways within. This is patient as the horizon.
Highly sensory-based animals, so any changes to an energy field, they tune into it straight away. And that mirrors back to us what's going on in us.
So we can push the energy up, we can bring it down. Same for ourselves. We explore that really good. Don't get force. Don't you have to set your intention. Your heart. Your
And that's what we teach here, to look at those cues. What is the horse trying to tell us? The horse only talks to us through its body language and posture, so we have to tune into them, and they tune into us. A lot in equine therapy centre is a place for people to come in and explore their emotions. We have all ages groups from the age of 72 all the way down to the age of 4, all different behavioural and emotional conditions. Some people have ASD, some people have ADHD, some people have a bereavement, some people have horrible events happening in their lives that they're still struggling to process or stop them from feeling their life completely. Which is why we don't buy rescue horses anymore, because they have a perfect life, but they've knitted back together.
I met this semi-wild horse and her small daughter. I started to approach her and I bowing. What she communicated to me was that horse culture is based on respect and that her experience
喂，
is the mama horse.
我陣間應該會去呢度，你有冇嘢？
And that's pretty
你有冇嘢要我買咯？
in my experience of animals, their ability to experience things kind of
哦，上
openness is unmatched by
幾個啦。
and I am really trying
你可唔可以
for
俾
personal grief, but also
Okay.
grief for
Huh?
collective condition
好慘，
feel and myself
好多嘢做，舒服多嘢做。
both
我屋企人，我條友，即係我有踢
and
波做咁樣嗰啲，有冇 capacity 多？
impacted
佢話做唔到，咁即係話硬食要做埋佢一份，好慘，超級慘。
bubbly energy, someone's quarrelling with their mental health.
拜拜。
We work with him
Bye bye.
to show them how to reset their baseline. So this is your brush, okay. Okay, point them into the heel. And you start on the neck, on the shoulder. Yeah, lovely. I mean, don't mind quite a hard stroke. Okay. Start getting rough, try to surface.
Oh wow, okay. I guess it's also a regulating actually.
So really, this is a very calm state. Therefore, you will feel rested. Big large animal.
The mama horse, and I just kind of called her mama, we were hanging out and we were snuggling, cheek to cheek, and I started stressing. When I started getting really in my head and I was looking into anxiety symptoms, then she started to fall away. And I was like, I wasn't safe because I had abandoned myself and I had abandoned her. I tried to get my breathing to a place where I was really like breathing into my body. And as I did so, she settled back into me. And when I returned to my body, the fears were there. Some bad and sad feelings. And they felt hurtful. Because I was present. And that wasn't unsafe for her. And it wasn't unsafe for me. Even though my survival mechanism had told me that it was unsafe. And when I felt that way, because at one time it was unsafe. Survival mechanism keep us out of certain rooms of the house. Think of our consciousness. Big old trust. There's something of that pause. The pause that the mama horse requires. It was tend to yourself even so that you can be a safe animal for me to interact with. That practice can build on itself. And depending on an individual's trauma or situation, it is that practice that helps us return home, stay home, and to eventually fill up all of the rooms of our consciousness so that we are more whole.
That was Patience of the Horizon by Tej Adelaide. I'm reminded of the idea that we as humans are a lonely species, that we sequestered ourselves away from other large animals, but we should be surrounded by other larger animals. And I think that's why equine therapy is so successful, because that
amazing feeling when you see a horse, when you're encountering by how big it is and how beautiful it is. That must on some level be our little animal brains registering that this is right and this is natural. We're relational beings, and our love for things, for animals, shouldn't be something to be embarrassed about, but a joy to remind us that we're alive.
Josie, the producer was Axel. On BBC Radio 4.
Does that man who came into there mean what he said?
Neil Cusack releases the heartbreaking sequel to an acclaimed novel.
He means what he said when he whispered. There's no doubt about that.
Long Island by Colin Tabine.
How is Jim found? Oh, he's fine, fine. Did he ever... She stopped for a second. Mine? No, he didn't.
Long Island by Colin Tabine. Next Monday to Friday evening at 10:45 on Radio 4 and on BBC Sounds. Now here's Laurie Taylor with Think Aloud.
Hello. Back in the 1970s, I was a lecturer in sociology at the University of Mind Recovery Habit Performance. Its real malign possibilities, which is to take ordinary people out of themselves in a way where they lose rational judgment. I'm not quite sure what the solution is to counter that type of performance. You couldn't tether a basic human impulse, mode of expression like performance, but you can make spectators more judgmental and less passive participants, where the spectator has learned the arts of suspicion, of judgment. That's a much more complex notion than it might first appear, because a lot of the thing about power is that it invites us to forget the everyday. And that's got to be moderated in some way. That's what Brecht wanted to do in the theater, after all. And it's what Michael Shannon and that wanted to have happen in politics. Not that you would banish rhetoric. But that the spectators would learn to listen to what's called the third ear, that they take in immediately what the speaker is doing, and then they listen to what's underneath what the immediate impression that they're trying to make. And that's, I think, the key to tempering the bad exercise. It's difficult to be unsettled. As I look at sociology, social theorists before, I mean, you've already been talking about Hannah Arendt, but you also use some social cognition. What was he like as a performer? I often wonder whether he somehow That's another night. We want to change the nature of performance. Well, I've got to read it here. This is comes from Grammar and Nephew, an essay by the 18th century philosopher Denis Diderot. describing the metaphor of the composer, rather, a performer who could do almost anything.
He jumbled together 30 different operatic melodies, French, Italian, comic, tragic, in every style. Now in a baritone voice he sang to the goods, then straining in falsetto he tore to shreds the upper notes of some tunes while imitating the stance, walk and gesture of several characters. He was being himself both dancer and ballerina, singer and prima donna, all put together, and the whole orchestra, the whole theatre. Then he redivided himself into 20 separate roles.
Well, that is the choice of right. But Rameau's trying to understand what's the relationship between himself as a performer and impersonation. It's extreme what happens when you can impersonate anything, which is you lose yourself. And so it's something that's promoted when a performer is a kind of super technician, capable of doing and that's the implication, by the way, in music, which is that so often told conservatory, you need to be a ventriloquist, speaking in your voice. That's a very natural voice. All great performers would rather use it because they want to avoid Rameau's nephew sickness of doing anything to anyone at any time, anywhere. It's really interesting to talk about the way in which that kind of virtuosity came to be extended beyond musical theatre, really. So people, ordinary people, became adept, if you like, at being performers in their own lives. I mean, there's a sort of turning point in culture where people could be utter themselves. My own view of this is that seemingly just something. That what we're getting in modern corporate life is a demand for people to be more and more able to perform many more different roles and to be flexible, to move from situation to situation, to adapt, to move and so on, where there's less and less authenticity and more and more adaptation to whatever the situation is like. That was the notion of good originally of Irving Hawker. When he said that life is a series of adaptations, extremely wide to be so economic, that everything you no longer have careers in capitalism where they learn one thing and pursue it their whole life. There constantly is a world changing situation and so on, which means they have to behave a little like Rameau's nephew from year to year. Constantly have to adapt to their new roles, their new households, their new jobs. Exactly. That's the economic side of this whole culture of performance. Do you remember how avidly you read Federico Cusa? One by Benjamin. It's a misplaced title of the book because what is actually interesting is the chameleon-like character of modern capitalism. Workers to be Rameau's nephew. You got lots of examples in your book of different kinds of performance. And including some with perfectly ordinary people. One example about Dirty Dick Social Bar in the 2060s and 1960s. Tell me about this bar, how it relates to you. It was one of the first openly gay bars in a city in which lots of different kinds of people who were gay showed up, and all of these people were on stage, as it were, dancing and talking with each other. I lived above this bar, and it was my introduction to gay life, because every time I went down to get a pack of cigarettes, which I smoked many of in those days, I moved through this stage set of people performing different kinds of work. Wonderful. What was interesting about this is that there's a set of performances, simultaneous performances.
Onto the waiting list at Drama Centre and funding every single time that was out to get in. So it really has a certain level of commitment.
Yeah. Why did you so much want to go there?
The audition was incredible. The audition was like no other audition. They gave you a speech and then the audition was incredible. But I know actually you stepped into from
then I later realised once I started that they were all Stanislavski. Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? Where have you just been? What, you know, all of those things.
Who was doing this audition with you? Who was asking you this?
It was Christopher
It was
Festus, who was the
Christopher Festus.
principal, and Jaap Malmsten, who was also, there were like two principals
Right,
at the
yeah.
school. Dave said to me straight away, you're incredibly young, are you a virgin? Wow.
Okay.
In Indonesia.
Different time.
And he actually said, well, first of all,
Oh, no.
yeah, literally said,
Oh my
first of all,
God. Wow. Well, that's, I would say, that is exactly the sort of thing that is why we thought Thomas Anderson was like that.
I started driving a cab and moved onto the block that is depicted in Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. About 6 weeks after I wrapped it up. And when the film came out, of course, it upped my cachet enormously.
As a journalist, Michael Goldfarb has covered social and political drama all around the world. But in the beginning, he wanted to be an actor. And his taxi wasn't his only passion for the hero. They also have the same teacher.
I just want you to know I'm giving you what is my life, Stella. And that's just getting the ceremony.
I know enough about the group theater to know that basically there were 3 English teachers who had all been in the group. And that was Lee Strasberg, Sanford Meisner, Sam Waxman, and Stella. And I chose Stella Adler, I'll be honest with you, because her feelings were very listening.
I want you to have a point of reference that there is in man the ability to say, if I don't give my life to you, I haven't lived.
We trooped in for the first class, and she's sitting in her throne. It was a chair that said, I'm in charge. And she's sitting there, smoldering.
Yeah, we used to do these song exercises, stand up in front of the class, and you have to sing a song that is meant to say happy birthday. And each syllable, you just hold on a note. It doesn't have to be in tune, and you have to allow whatever you are feeling to be expressed underneath it. So you twist and relax your body, and you go ha, and everything else. And most people do the laugh. And then sometimes people also do the but you couldn't allow it to affect you physically. It just had to be vocal. With a view to, and this is a very much an American notion, that your body should be so completely relaxed as a state. You should be holding tension in your body, and then everything is heard and so
And the emotion that's coming through it is your own personal.
wherever you are that day. But it would also then inform how you showing everything. It's like all young artists, I think you have to do things to impress people. You have to show you who I am, what kind of character I am, how to reveal it.
And that exercise you talked about making sound and letting the emotion come through. And that's good.
Everything has to be
some nights news is insane. So what do? You need a technique. And you learn the most basic sorts of exercises, almost too silly. Coming on stage. You come on stage, and you walk on stage, and she boring me. Then she would show you what she meant by coming on stage. She stepped back outside, and she'd be half unbuttoned, flustered because there was a handbag or something, and hang it up, and it was alive. It was so vivid. And that's not something a director will tell you to do. That is your technique. You need to have a sense of how to do that.
Let's say you've got a script. What would be the first thing that you do?
I think personally I flesh out the human being first. Who are they? The very fantastic questions. What's your for breakfast? What car keys are in my handbag? All of that stuff. It's really useful, it's fun too, it's very playful, So what's the Stanislavski thing where you take a character and you're supposed to be able to drop them into any scenario and you would know how they would react. That was one of the big exercises, I think. So if you have that, you've got all that, everything is just, because you hate characters. You've got all that, and you know how they'll be. So then when you're doing a performance, spending changes, you're so there and ready to play.
You are not acting words. That is not part of the tradition in which this playwright wrote a play. You cannot think that way, you cannot do the bottle that way, you cannot
There's a water
Okay.
Stella would send us to the
係咪俾飲含瞓咗？嚇？
portraits from the
嚇？
Nearly.
Nearly.
How people are sitting.
Very, very
Now,
nearly.
even if you're not one of
His brain is fighting a
playing
machine
in
back there.
Hungary, for example,
我
you know that
哋
people sit differently. They carry themselves differently.
叔叔過嚟食飯，
You need to do that.
我都唔知食。
And this is all in her
我聽緊。
desire to share what she had learned from Stanislavski.
In 1934, Stella Adler took a break from the teaching. She was increasingly unhappy with the way that Stanislavski's system was being implemented by Lee Strasberg. It was all very much centered on exercises to draw out the actor's psychological and emotional connections to the character. This, they all believed, was what Stanislavski's system was. It worked for some actors, but not for Stella Adler.
你試唔試下呢個？你試過未？
When she told him what they were doing in the room, he was horrified. That's not the system, he told him. He had, he said, sidelined all that emotional stuff into him. So, directly from Stanislavski, Stella Adler learned a technique, one which emphasized the context of the play, its given circumstance, out of which comes imaginative paths for the actors of the film. Stella Adler returned, told the group to what he knew. But Lee Strasberg held fast to going on. His own refraction of Stanislavski's system, which would, in time, be called
They called what they did their method of learning. And in the early days of the group, that really was Strasberg. Eventually, there's a kind of Alice and Strasberg hers, and then there's a lot of different ideas about how to proceed Strasberg, all of which are still called performances. By the time you get to the early 1950s, capital and methods for really Strasberg.
The Oscar goes to...
It seems as if every time the Oscars roll around, we're treated to tall tales of actors with great lengths to research their characters, living in a mud hut for a month, or actors who stay in character 24 hours a day. This world is method. That's not method. The method, Lee Strasberg, method, is all about using the actor's own memories and emotions to create character. Feelings come first, separate from the action of the play. Once you've reached a sort of heightened state, you may need to stay. Staying in character allows easier access to those people when you need them. But that's not, in and of itself, the method.
Strasberg actually develops a series of the effective memory
exercise where you are
Huh? Tomorrow. Huh? Tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow coming home. Come on, call it. Okay?
And that becomes
應該話叔叔，聽日佢翻佢自己屋企，OK？
So Adler needed Strasbourg. On your life, died and she
Tonight.
got the news on the phone. The first thing she said when she got off the phone was good riddance.
Ben.
Now go find yourself ruining
佢
actors.
放工咯，
The kind of relationship we're talking about here. Stella Adler said that she was practicing psychotherapy without a license.
7點幾真係幾點？
Cult leader, you know, that's really the most controversial part of it. Stella would say,
Yeah.
I teach you, and when you're done, you have to go away and forget everything I've taught you. But with Lee Strasberg, he wants to hold on. And the bigger the star, the tighter the hair. Marilyn Monroe was probably one of the most famous. And Patterson was a surrogate son. It worked for them great. But there were a lot of people who were less successful, probably less talented as well.
Con vâng. Hả? Thái. Có học được ba mà học thêm. Oh no. Oh no. Học có một sáng cầu. Okay. You can do whatever you want. Huh? You can do whatever you want. I still need to work.
So I'll just be chilling. Okay? I'll just be chilling. I'm not that kind of kid. I'm that type of kid. I just
People did do that because it was important.
I remember you were saying about Eleanor Adisa, and how people would say they would watch her acting and she would blush, just because the blushing story was. That's magic, huh? No, that's magic.
I remember listening to that story as well, and the astonishment was able to actually blush when her character was supposed to blush. And that kind of connection between what the character was experiencing and what you were experiencing. Such a sort of thin boundary. I mean, there's things as well.
Yeah, I had experienced it once where I literally say to something, I'm going mad and confusing myself. Character.
And you walk
I walked to a stage, I was doing production of the Doll's House. So Ibsen, so very big stuff. And I was on stage. Very difficult. It's been a very difficult house for me for reasons. And I just remember feeling just this moment that I didn't know who I was, if I was her or if I was me. And then the voice on my shoulder went, screw this. You're not becoming Chorus Petrus. And I just walked off stage. And Cass and Joseph, who was in play, put his hands on my shoulders and he said, 250 people in the audience were going to see the show. It was perfect. It took me completely out of the nonsense.
The things that thrill me are the moments where the actor and character, there is no difference in that the reaction that they're giving seems so spontaneous and so coming from the person that it would be impossible to tell where the character is going from the actor. But that's the danger of it, because isn't that what made you walk off the stage then?
Yeah. What is the difference, isn't it? You manage to keep your skin on. You know, those weird little toy things that our kids have had at various points where they're like these little rubber men and you throw them at the wall and they stick. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to throw yourself against the wall. You know. It's a muscle you develop.
Pull the threads between things. Well, I do think that if you're lucky enough to be able to do different things in your job in life, you are better at teaching the wisdom thing because you can pull the threads between them.
Right. The journey is complete. We might come back to it. The journey is complete with the House of Lords. You made the decision, another important decision, maybe not as life-changing as some of the other decisions we talked about, like lastminute.com, getting out of lastminute.com, that fateful holiday to Morocco, but you applied to become a peer.
Yeah.
You actually filled out the form and said, I'd like to be in that sport.
Yes. Every year there are 2 people appointed people's peers. That was something that Tony Blair instigated. And for me to bring some kind of outside expertise into the House of Lords. Because I've done all this work in government and I've really, really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved when I directed Gordon Brown and I've really enjoyed creating Gov.uk with the team and it felt meaningful and as though it had big impact on something in the UK. And I thought, okay, I'm interested in policy, I like this stuff, I think I can use my voice more helpfully. So I was encouraged to think about doing this and I applied into that. Slipped through the net, just got appointed.
Prospect here, your party.
Yes, I thought there was yes. There are so many, but it's like any leadership people, the people that are great are spectacular. There are some people that should not be there in my opinion, and I personally think that the process I went through should just be carried as standard for everybody should have to show something that they can go through an interview and so on. But that aside, it is still a case full of incredible brain power when it works well. And I feel very lucky to work with some of the fully directors. I haven't been across doing a lot of legislative stuff, but timetables is super frustrating if you have a bit of outside working life. But I have tried to lend my voice to all kinds of issues, whether it's technology, but a lot of business, try and represent that local the chambers that have been involved as part of it. And I certainly try and use my voice to raise the profile of things that I'm doing. So,
I mean, you're not meant to do that. I mean, the outside interest, there are conflicts of interest.
No,
Your job as a legislator.
no,
You can't go and say, I'm
president of the British Chamber of Commerce, so I'll now bring that to the House of Lords.
Of course you have to declare all those interests, but you're also informed by your experience in your working life, and I feel lucky that I have this fast track into what's happening in the economy, which is very important to bring into the chamber, in my opinion. I don't really talk about business very well in the House.
No, well, that's
and I don't think there are very many, there are lots of business people in there, but I don't think business is well represented very often.
I do want to go back to Twitter because the difference between sitting in the House of Lords and being on the board of Twitter, a company that was troubled, we should say, before, and Elon Musk comes along, and I think to you on the board looked like the White Knight.
No, it's not quite right.
So basically, you forced him to take it over after he made a bid and then thought, I want to get out of this.
He signed a contract. I mean, just to be very, very clear, right? And I was chair of the compensation committee and the nomination and government committee and the settlement transaction committee. So
hard about the leg or the hand, because you don't realise how much you do with your hand. That dexterity is just amazing. To hold the hand of your child, touch your wife, do a garden, but it's never going to be quite the same, obviously.
And the Eagles taking longer to land. We hear how the greatest spotted eagles' travel and breeding habits are being affected by the war in Ukraine. That's all after the BBC News, read tonight by Chris Aldridge.
A British man has died and many others have been injured after severe turbulence on a flight from London to Singapore. The authorities in Thailand, where the aircraft made an emergency landing, have said the 73-year-old, named as Jeff Kitchen, is believed to have suffered a heart attack. Passengers are described to have a force of the turbulence and launched those not wearing seatbelts into the ceiling, denting the overhead lockers. The Omega reports.
The Singapore Airlines flight took off from Heathrow at 10:30 last night. According to the airline, it encountered severe turbulence en route and diverted to Bangkok, where it arrived roughly 11.5 hours after departure. The airline confirmed that one person had died in the incident and offered its deepest condolences to their family. Aviation safety experts say severe turbulence cannot always be predicted or avoided. Research suggests it's becoming more common due to climate change. However, deaths and injuries resulting from it remain rare.
A former Royal Marine who'd been charged with aiding the Hong Kong Intelligence Service has died in what have been described as unexplained circumstances. 37-year-old Matthew Trickett was found dead in a park in Maidenhead, Berkshire on Sunday. Henry Price.
Matthew Trickett, who was an immigration enforcement officer and a former Royal Marine, had appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court last week and was due to appear at the Old Bailey on Friday. He faced 2 charges under the new National Security Act, introduced last year to combat the threat from states like Russia, Iran and China. Mr. Trickett was one of 3 men accused of agreeing to undertake information gathering, surveillance and acts of deception that were likely to materially assist a foreign intelligence service. Matthew Trickett's death is being treated as unexplained, and a post-mortem examination is yet to take place. Detectives are asking for anyone who was in Grenfell Park in Maidenhead on Sunday afternoon to come forward.
The government has set out details of what it's called a comprehensive compensation scheme for victims of the infected blood scandal. Documents suggest some people could receive more than £2 million each. Ministers say they expect the first payments to be made by the end of the year. The announcement came a day after the public inquiry into the scandal laid out a catalogue of failures over many years and accused the authorities of concealing the truth. Andy Evans is from the Tainted Blood Group, which represents hundreds of survivors. He gave his reaction to the compensation scheme.
It's going to mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, obviously. People have been impacted by this scandal in many different ways. Some are going to be pleased with the amounts of compensation they've been awarded, some less so. We really need to look at the detail. The devil's always in the detail.
Israel has rolled back on its decision to shut down a live feed looking into Gaza run by the Associated Press. The confiscation of AP's equipment was condemned as shocking by the UN. Israeli officials had accused the American news agency of providing footage to the Qatar-owned Al Jazeera TV channel, which it banned earlier this month.